Welcome to all in today's online Student Alumni Meet. Today, our guest of honor is Ms. Rupkatha Ghosh. She is a former gold medalist in the Department of Civil Engineering from the batch of 2019. She has been a former senior civil engineer at Larsen and Toubro, and currently she is a junior research fellow at IISc. Ma'am, once again, I would like to welcome you to this session, and I would like to thank you on behalf of SciCell to accept our invitation. And now I will request you to take over today's session.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shamidev, for the introduction. So, am I perfectly audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yeah, okay. So, without further ado, then I'll start sharing my slides.
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah, Shamidev, just let me know if it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's absolutely visible.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, so a very good evening to one and all here. Firstly, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to SAI, Students Alumni Interaction Cell of NIT Durgapur, for actually giving me this opportunity to interact with you all via this platform. So, since I already have been already given a brief introduction, however, I would like to talk a bit about myself. Well, now currently I am a senior research fellow. So, as Shamidev was mentioning, a junior research
Hello.
fellow. Hello.
I'm sorry for the disturbance. I think
Yeah.
Nothing.
it's
Continue.
accidentally
Okay.
clicked
Okay.
on the
Okay.
microphone.
Okay. 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 Sure. So I recently transitioned from a junior research fellow, that is a JRF, to a senior research fellow. I will talk about it in the future slide. And well, I was a gold medalist of civil engineering batch of 2015 to 19. And I also was a Prime Minister's Scholarship Scheme Fellow, again during the same years. So, what is PMSS? That also I will discuss, but in this slide only. As part of my education, I completed my BTech in civil engineering from NIT Durgapur with a CGPA of 8.97, followed by which I am currently pursuing my PhD in the Department of Management Studies in IISc Bangalore, and CGPA is 9.7 for coursework. As part of my work ex, I basically did my internship in L&T construction. I was actually selected as a summer intern under the Inspire program from May 2018 to July 2018. Followed by which I was absorbed as a graduate engineer trainee, that is a GET, from July 2019 to July 2020, and promoted to senior civil engineer and worked till Jan of 2021. As part of my skills, why I wrote this is because, well, I did my graduation in civil engineering and also I was a civil engineer by profession. So, still, I have acquired these skills during my PhD. Why and how I will discuss about that in the later slides. So, Python and R, these two are actually currently very trending languages, which is why I mentioned R is basically a statistical software. Lingo, these are basically optimization packages. So basically what they do is you have to input a mathematical model in that software and it basically gives you the results of the optimization depending on the type of program it is. Lindo is basically linear discrete optimizer, basically helps you optimize linear programs. Lingo is for non-linear programs. And as for civil engineering, you all will know any basic civil engineer should have the skill of AutoCAD, which is computer aided design, and StatPro Foundation. As part of my hobbies, I am basically a vocalist in Hindustani classical music. I was actually a vocalist at the SPICMAK, which is Society for Promotion of Indian Classical Music and Culture Amongst Youth, SPICMAK NIT Durgapur chapter. And for contact info for further guidance and any kind of information or help if you require. So this is my contact number as well as my WhatsApp. You can note it down. And this is my email ID. So this has been my journey till now. I will take up some time in this slide. So basically, I did my BTech in civil engineering. Now, why I chose civil engineering was because, well, my inclination towards the industry was primarily reinforced by my father, who was a diesel mechanical engineer in Indian Air Force. So I basically wanted to take up mechanical engineering, but my father was like that I'm already a mechanical engineer. Why don't you take up some other core subject? So I was left with two options. All I knew was civil, electrical, mechanical. I was not really good at physics. Not ashamed to say that. So I definitely was like, no, I won't take up electrical. So which is why I took up civil engineering. Now, the first two semesters, that is the first year of our college, it was very smooth because you basically get exposure to all the departments in a nutshell. You have computer science, you have a bit of electrical engineering also. So the first two semesters went very smooth. Once I was into civil engineering, so from third semester, which started, well, it was pretty different because, uh, in fact, during our times, they used to say that, why did you take up civil engineering? It's like the toughest course in NIT Durgapur because there were times when you had to spend even till 8 o'clock in the night or 9 o'clock in the night in your sessional labs because our professors used to be very particular. I'm sure they are still very particular about, those drawing sketches that they will make you erase it all again, make you restart it again. Then a lot of assignments were given. So overall, yeah, a lot of people might say that it was a very tough course, and but well, I would actually say that it kind of shaped me who I am. And one of the most important lessons which I learned during my BTech is that like building the concepts is what actually matters. There will be some subjects where you will actually find yourself mugging it up just to pass the exam. Later on you will realize that whatever you had mugged up was something that you have completely forgotten, and that is very obvious because if you do not buttress your understanding of the concepts, you can never really remember it for a lifetime. So there are some of the subjects in civil engineering which are like very important, not just from your placement, not just from your placement point of view, but also when you are sitting for competitive exams like gate. So subjects like structural analysis, then RCC design, steel design are some of the subjects where you can actually build your concepts very well. And these subjects are like, they used to be taught to us also pretty well. And in addition to that, one of the things that I would like to say is that do not really get into the bad books of any professors. That is like very important. Later on, also, when you go for a corporate company, it doesn't really matter, but still if you want to switch your line and if you want to go for higher studies, the recommendations from these very professors are going to be extremely important. So yeah, remember that. Also, a lot of people during our first years, they used to say that CGPA does not really matter. I would say the opposite. I am not saying that yes, you have to be a 9 pointer or you have to ace all the subjects, but at least if you clear the threshold, like for campusing also, for example, during our time when I was working, like when I sat for L&T construction during my third year, the CGPA for the third year students was basically 8.5. Later on, I think during the final year campusing placements, they changed it to 8. But for the third years, it was 8.5. And in fact, even in future, like when you apply to universities, when you have to give your applications, when you are in schools or colleges, these teachers and professors, they know you personally. But when you are basically giving your application somewhere, so most of the people will go by your academic achievement. So at least if you have good grades, that actually adds a lot, or in fact speaks a lot about you. So yeah, so till 2019 was my complete BTech life. These were some of the very important aspects that I felt like sharing. And followed by which I worked in a company that is L&T Construction. The IC was B&F, which is Buildings and Factories. So L&T Construction has basically a lot of independent companies. Buildings and Factories was one of them, completely dedicated to the construction of buildings and factories, as the name says. So from 2019 to 2021 was that journey of mine. I will talk about it in my next slide. And currently, from 2021 till present, I'm doing my PhD in operations management. So a lot of people basically when they hear the name management, they generally tend to relate it with human resources or organizational behavior. So it's not like that. In fact, there are a lot of branches in management. So for example, if some of you are interested in finance, you can do your PhD in finance or economics or operations research or operations management and so on. So my current area of research is basically development of analytic methods for a class of decision problems in the Indian urban road transportation organizations. So the urban road transportation organizations, for example, like in West Bengal, we have WBTC, but that is a state road transport undertaking, and that is not completely dedicated to Kolkata. So only the Calcutta Transport Corporation would be one of the URTO. Similarly, for every metropolitan city has a dedicated organization. Not every, actually, we have 12 Indian urban road transport organizations like that. So my area of research is basically to minimize the cost of their city bus operations. So if time permits, I would want to showcase a few slides in my area of research, but if and only if the time permits. So yeah, so that was all about the entire timeline. Now from NIT Durgapur till LNT. So what was my trajectory was during the third year, as I was saying, LNT basically had come for recruiting the third year students also as interns and also the final year students. So I was in third year. The criteria for sitting for the interview, there was a direct interview. It was that your CGPA had to be more than 8.5. So in the direct interview, they basically asked very basic questions, as I was emphasizing like during my earlier slide, that you have to be proficient in subjects like building materials and construction, then structural analysis, design related questions also they will ask. They might also ask a few questions from transportation engineering. So these 4 5 subjects are extremely important. Generally they do not ask questions from hydrology if someone is aspiring for L&T construction per se. And Inspire was basically the internship program for engineers. That was what they call the program. So I got selected and I was given the results of my selection in the month of around February 2018. And in May 2018, I got my offer letter. So then again from May till June, I worked for 2 months. So again, the pre-placement offer, which is the PPO, it is subject to your performance. So if you perform really well during these 2 months, you will definitely get a PPO. I do not know if L&T is still coming to our campus for recruiting the third year students. Are they coming yet?
For final placements, they are
For
coming.
Okay, okay. So for third year students, they are not coming.
Last few years were lockdown, and now just we have started
Okay.
soon. They
Okay,
have
so
not.
keep an eye on that. They might come. So anyway, so that was my trajectory. Again, during the final year campus placements also, they will actually ask you very basic questions. And depending on the kind of questions they ask, it is actually decided to which IC you are allotted to. So as I was saying, no, that I worked in the BNF, that is the Buildings and Factories IC. So mostly the civil engineers were given BNF IC only. Electrical engineers were given PT and DIC, that was the Power Transmission and Distribution IC. One of my friends, though, he was an exception. He was did he was my batchmate, but still he got into PT and DIC. And then there are also other ICs. So depending on your area of interest, if you want to work in transportation completely, so they will allocate you to transportation IC and also subject to the availability of their seats. So then I got absorbed as a GET, which is a graduate engineer trainee. So this was a brief of my life at L&T Construction. So, to be very honest, if you actually read about life at L&T on Quora, specifically, I would say, you will actually kind of get a lot of negative reviews. But if you ask me, well, initially I thought that life was, like extremely difficult because even as a GT, I had to wake up at around 6 o'clock in the morning. Site life used to start at 8. And it doesn't really matter, like if you're choosing civil engineering, so it doesn't matter whether you are a guy or a girl, like depending on your responsibilities and depending on how much you want to uh, learn or inculcate. So you will have to give your working hours like that. So even as a GET, we used to stay at the site till 7 p.m. Well, obviously, when I got promoted to senior civil engineer, obviously life changed. We used to stay at the site till even 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the night. So site life is extremely different, and obviously, like they have this one branch called EDRC, which is the Engineering Design and Research Center in Chennai. Mostly architects are given EDRC, but for civil engineers, you will definitely be given a site, because even for working in the, I mean, talking from a girl's point of view, even if you want to work in offices, you have to at least know that, what the, like, how the basic cell looks like. So for that, you basically have to absorb what is happening at the site, how is it happening. So as a graduate engineer trainee, what they do for 1 year is they basically expose you to all the departments. So yes, you can have your own choice. Like you can say, for example, I'm interested in reinforcement, or I'm interested in form work. So they will try to adjust you to that particular department once you are absorbed permanently. But then again, you will be exposed to all these departments. So we had like safety, quality, form work is also known as shuttering. Now, form work department is extremely interesting. Why I say, because this is something which is never ever taught to us while you are doing your civil engineering in the entire 4 years. I mean, 3 years actually, precisely. They will never tell you what is shuttering, how is it done. So you will get to learn about shuttering once you are assigned to any corporate, I mean, core civil engineering company. So there you will learn. It's basically like a mold where the concreting is done. Okay. So about the formwork, the types of formwork, that this plays a pivotal role in actually, making those building blocks, followed by execution. So how site execution is done, followed by reinforcement and planning. Planning is like, it's like bridging the gap between what you aspire to see and what you do. So planning is extremely important. It is like the head of all these departments. And finally, they also expose you a bit to accounts and IR. IR is industrial relations. That is extremely important because, for example, you are constructing a building. So it's definitely very important to know what are the labor laws, what are the codes, what are the working schedules. I mean, there is also something known as time office, they say, that is basically maintaining the attendance, biometrics of these workers. So since you will be directly dealing with these workers, this department also becomes very important. And yes, you will have to learn certain aspects of it. So as part of a GT, I was basically allotted the very site where I did my internship in. So that was the project name was Vivek Tirtha project, and the client was Ramakrishna Mission. So they basically had two buildings in their plan to get constructed. One was the Art Institute building, which was basically supposed to be a replica of the Chicago's Art Institute. And another one was a Center for Human Excellence building. So the Center for Human Excellence building was a B plus G plus 10 building, and this one was a G+3 building, the Art Institute building. So while as a GT also, life was very easy because all you had to do was you basically had to spend 1 month in each of these departments, prepare a report on that and submit it monthly to the HR manager. And then you will basically have two reviews. One was mid-year review and second was annual review. So in the mid-year review, whatever departments you have completed, they will basically ask you questions from that. You will basically have to prepare a presentation, and again in the final review, that is mostly, you can say, to judge how much you have learned. If you haven't grasped the concepts properly, they will again ensure that you do the rotation of the departments where you lack. So GET period is very smooth, but then when you become senior civil engineer, or when you get absorbed in whichever company you are going to, then again your life will be a bit different, because as a GT you are not directly shouldering any responsibilities. Like you won't have to sign any contract or sign any agreement which has numbers. So my roles and responsibilities, so as part of senior civil engineer, I was allotted one site. It's actually currently in Kolkata. It's an international school, that is an RP Goenka International School. And the project worth was around 108.1 crores. So it wasn't much, but it was a very prestigious project because it was given by the Sanjeev Goenka Group. So I was basically the subcontractor in charge of the site. Now, here again, life was very different. So, like from the theoretical civil engineering, whatever you have learned, when you actually try to implement it on site, no, you see that whatever is there in the theory is theoretical, but there are a lot of practical implications to it. And it all depends on what type of site you are allocated to, or whether you are getting enough manpower to get the work done. So dealing with the subcontractors is something which helped me learn people management. So because often you'll see that like what we understand by dealing with these vendors or dealing with people management, you will understand that you give some work order. So work order is basically like a document you prepare, where you basically assign them some work in lieu of some given amount of money, and then accordingly they will be doing that work. You will be preparing their bills monthly, and that's it. But on site, you will see that a lot of times, even when you have planned, for example, let's say you have just planned to spend rupees 100 on one particular project, on a particular part of that project. But when you're going to allocate the work to that worker, he's like that, no, you have to give me 140. So that 40 rupees which deviates from your budget, that is something that you will again have to account for. So for that, you
Yeah.
will again have to like talk to your yeah, anyone has any question? Okay, so
Ambedkar Kumar, you are speaking. No, Didi, continue.
okay, so this 40 rupees difference that lies, it doesn't matter whether you give that work to the vendor or not. It again matters that you will have to explain that difference to your higher ups, and then you will have to account it in your future financial statements that you make. So this thing that I wrote, no, monthly tracking of JCR was basically a job cost report that again we had to prepare as a subcontractor in charge. So a job cost report basically consisted of two things. That one was your job status to date, whatever work is getting done. So yeah, again, for example, a certain amount of concreting has gotten done. So you will have to read the drawings very carefully, because being a civil engineer, you cannot blindly sign the work order or make someone's bills. So you will have to quantify the amount of concreting which was supposed to be done. A lot of times you might see that, practically when the work is getting implemented on site, the amount of concreting is either more or less. So accordingly, that quantified amount of work, depending on the unit rate which is offered by that vendor, you will have to multiply and you will have to give it. Now there will be some unit rate which will be decided by your higher ups, uh, which L&T used to call as an accepted cost estimate. It was basically a very a very succinct and a very brief, to the point planned estimate of each of the works given with the amount of money which was supposed to be incurred in each of these. And what they used to do was basically they used to try to keep a gross margin of 15%. So accordingly, as a SC in charge, you will have to monthly track this job cost report with respect to your ACE. So yeah, what I was saying was JCR consisted of two things. One was your JSTD, that was job status to date. So whatever amount of work is getting done, plus the ETC, that was the estimate to complete. And the summation of these both was your revised estimate, which had to be almost at par with ACE. So that was something, we used to face a lot of challenges in, because you will have to see whether the drawings are right or not, for which you will have to continuously coordinate with the design department. Then again, you will have to check your site conditions, whether it's possible or not, client coordination. So just being the SC in charge doesn't help. You will basically have to coordinate with all the departments. You will have to talk to your client, the one who is accounting for your client billing also. You will also have to talk to that guy and discuss how much they are charging the client, how much you are dealing from the subcontractors, because L&T is completely on the contractor side, or any company which you join. If you are joining some design company, that is a separate issue. Otherwise, if you are joining some company which is dedicated to construction, then obviously it's on the contractor side. So you'll have to think from a contractor's mind. So all these you don't learn when you are doing your undergraduate. So all these are things which is why I always preferred that directly after a BTech, it's kind of good if you join some company, you get some hands-on experience, because otherwise right now when I'm at IISc, a lot of my friends say that we are just constantly studying. They're doing their masters, then followed by they're doing their PhD. So they always think that life is greener on the other side. So this is like completely my personal opinion, that if you join some company, so you kind of get a taste of how life is like. And also second was we did lean implementation. So lean is basically what should I say, it's like bringing efficiency into your work processes. So lean construction, this came very new, and this site which I was allocated to was one of the 20 project sites in pan India. So what we were doing was we were basically trying to optimize the time and cost by increasing productivity. We actually increased the productivity by 70%. Then some of you might have heard about 5S implementation, that is sort, set, shine, standardize, and sustain. So like maintaining this 5S at the stores, for example, you are sorting the things in order, whatever materials the workmen need, you can give them. So for that, the store in charge was responsible. So even ensuring that that is getting done at the site. Then we did micro level sampling of work and workmen. So for example, what used to happen was we used to call these small meetups of workmen, used to allocate them some work before the start of work, and then used to see whether they're getting the work done or not. So basically, there is this term called NVA, which is non-value added activities. So what we try to do was we try to minimize these non-value added activities which were exceeding 50% to eliminate the potential time wasters. So all this came under lean implementation, and I was supposed to basically accumulate all the reports, accumulate whatever was happening at the site, and give a monthly status to the HQ, that is the headquarters, which was in Chennai. And lastly, digitalization implementation, which was very important to almost reduce the paperwork at site. So we were basically handling with like around 10 digital apps. So there was one app for safety, for quality, anything gets deviated. So someone will just click the photo, upload it, send it for like corrective and preventive action, stuff like that. So yeah, this was a very brief of my work in L&T from July 2020 till January 2021.
The,
Now, how? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what is this app thing that you told just now?
Okay. Yeah, basically, see, at every site, they used to assign someone as a digital champion of that site. Okay. Mostly, like if you're joining, no, they will try to assign the new trainees only as a digital champion. Even as a GT, also, you might be a digital champion. So you will basically have to oversee the working of these apps because, see, to be very honest, in core companies, you will have to deal with people who are pretty much elder to you, like in their 40s or 50s. So
Yeah,
explaining digitalization to them, like making them use these apps, making them install it, checking the like monitoring their constant usage. So that actually comes under this digitalization thing. So for example, I will give you a very small example. Initially, like mm, almost like 10 to 11 years back in L&T, I will tell you what used to happen was, for example, someone needs a rebar. Okay. So what the site engineer used to do was he basically used to sign it on a paper. Basically, the worker, he used to sign on this sheet. They used to call it an indent. They used to sign on this sheet, get the site engineer's signature, followed by the project manager's signature. Okay. And after that, he would go to the stores to personally collect it. So all this used to take a lot of time because like that worker has to keep on roaming for signatures, and also it depends on the availability. Suppose the project manager is not at the site, then who will sign? Then they will have to go to the planning manager or so. So what they did was they then, to remove this time consumption, what they did was they introduced the app digital stores. Now everything was happening online, but at the same time, see, uh, actually I will have to explain a lot of things then. For example, suppose now you're getting this rebar. Okay. Now, from the planning perspective, from the planning point of view, when we are doing planning, we basically book each and every material under certain cost packages. So, for example, safety shoes, we have booked it under safety cost package. Rebar, we
oh,
have booked it under reinforcement cost package. So, this linking was also getting done on the digital stores automatically, for which life was very easy when we were doing the cost booking online, when we were generating reports. So it was very easy. But when I joined, so digital stores was very new, and a lot of site engineers were pretty unhappy about that. They were like in their late 40s. They were like, "What is the point? Immediately we can sign and we can just get that material issued." So this you will have to oversee, and then you will also have to give its monthly and quarterly reports to the cluster office and to the HQ. So the more digitalization is implemented to your site, yeah, your site's rankings improve. So it's like an implicit competition amongst the sites itself.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that was it. And yeah, so how my uh, transition to PhD happened was, while I was in planning, not just this, I was also preparing schedules. Now, for the civil engineers also, and a lot of people you would know about CPM, called critical path method. Basically tries to determine the path which takes the maximum duration
Yes.
in the entire project. Yes, yes. So critical path. So see, I did not exactly know that CPM PERT. These were like very small, like. Very small, what should I say, concepts in the area of operations management. So when I started getting interested into that, I started making schedules also using either MS. We were using actually MSP. Okay, so I started making schedules, and I got very interested in that. That how was optimization getting done? So now I we also had a subject called construction management. Is it still being offered in civil engineering?
Is it related to MTech?
No, no. In your BTech only. AD sir used to teach. Amlan Das. Construction management.
That's a new course now. It's taken by a new professor.
Okay, okay, okay. So yeah, so that subject is actually very important, I would say, because like you will learn a lot of it, that how work is basically undertaken at a site. So construction management may you will have the CPM part and all these concepts. So I started growing very interested in that, and that actually opened up a new area. So basically, my interview was completely conducted on the CPM and PERT thing, for which that construction management subject helped me a lot. So I will just discuss about gateway to a PhD. So what happened was, on 5th January 2021, where my interview for these management studies department, which I'll say because I found I'm currently working actually under Dr. M. Mathirajan. He's the president of the Operations Research Society of India. So there are basically three gateways. So either you have a valid gate score, not from a CFTI, that is not from a centrally funded technical institute. So a lot of people, you might go for gate, so you can apply. Depending on the department, actually they conduct an online test or an interview or both. In my case, it was just an interview for our department. I did not go via gate score. I actually did not sit for gate only because, to be very honest, I had no intention of going for higher studies while I was in my BTech. It was a very sudden thing, and I would say that a very fortunate thing which happened to me. So my BTech CGPA was more than 8. Currently, now it has been made 8. In my time, it was 8.5, which is why 8.5, I would say, is a very safe margin. So from a centrally funded technical institute, since you all are NITians, so from NIT, IIT, triple ITs, whatever institutes are these, if your CGPA is more than 8 from BTech, then you can apply, or else you can if you have an ME or MTech degree. So depending on that, an online test or interview is being conducted, and there are a lot of disciplines available. That is in basic science, engineering, interdisciplinary. So for me, management is an interdisciplinary department. You can also apply for a PhD in civil engineering. And for civil engineering, I would say that what they do is, in fact, even for our department, they will basically ask you to submit a research proposal via Google form, and you will have to choose your area of interest. So, whatever area you choose, for example, if you choose just hydrology, then whoever the professors will be sitting in your panel for the final interview, they will be asking you questions only from hydrology and from nowhere else. So, similarly, for me, I chose operations research in the Department of Management Studies. And then further in operations research, they asked me that what was I the most comfortable on. So I basically said CPM and PERT. So they kept on grilling me for around 30 to 40 minutes on CPM. And also linear algebra to some aspect. It's also very important. They asked me questions from matrices and determinants. So yeah, linear algebra plus whatever your area, depending on the kind of department that you are going to. And I did not mention for master's courses. For master's courses also you can apply. So there are basically two provisions for that. They have, one is known as MTech in coursework, another is MTech in research. So the coursework thing is, That basically it will be a 2-year duration thing. You basically have to complete courses just like your BTech is there for 4 years, and then you sit for your placements like that. For MTech research, there is this coursework thing plus also this thesis thing. So again, that MTech research or coursework, for that also again a valid gate score is there. Now, depending on the kind of department that you are applying to, it depends whether they take an interview or not. Sometimes they will just take you in via your gate score, or you will have to sit for an interview. So I mentioned this site, that is https slash admissions.iisc.ac.in. You can just check in. I think the mid-year research admissions for PhD is now closed. So just keep an eye for the August admission. If anyone is interested, you can visit this site. So now talking about the 3 phases of PhD in IISc. So first 2 years is completely dedicated to your coursework plus comprehensive exam. So as I was mentioning, the transition from senior research fellow, transition to senior research fellow. So the first 2 years, you're basically a junior research fellow until you give your comprehensive exam. Once you give your comprehensive exam, you basically get promoted to the senior research fellow thing. So what is your coursework? In your coursework, you basically have to take up subjects. So if you're a direct BTech entry, direct BTech as in whether you have done your job. I mean, if your last qualification was a direct BTech only, then you will have to complete 24 credits. That is 8 courses. So for me, I had to complete 8 courses. For an MTech entrant, he or she has to just complete 12 credits. That is, they have to take 4 courses. Now, if you can see, I have basically given 3 arrows. One is PMRF for direct entry, PMRF for lateral entry for MTech, and PMRF for lateral entry for direct BTech. So PMRF, as you some of you might know or might not, I will just say PMRF is basically a Prime Minister Research Fellowship. Okay. During your PhD, in the first 2 years, they will give you a stipend of 31,000 per month. And once you clear your comprehensive exam and move to your 3rd year, then your stipend increases to 35,000 per month. So that is like a normal PhD duration with a grant of approximately 2 lakhs for your entire 5 years, which is a grant given to you for attending either domestic or international conferences. PMRF May, for the first 2 years, I think it's 70,000 per month. Then it becomes 75, and lastly it becomes 80,000 per month. So for direct entry, what happens is when you are joining your PhD course, firstly, you will have to ensure that you are joining a PMRF granting institution, for which you will just have to type PMRF on Google. You can just visit the institutions which offer PMRF. So PMRF for direct entry is primarily for these CFTIs like IITs, NITs. So your CGPA in undergraduate has to be more than 8. And if your research supervisor has a very strong recommendation, if you have a very strong research proposal, then you can apply. And if you once you get into that PMRF granting institution, then they will have to upload your information on the PMRF portal, and then accordingly the process starts. For MTech, they can apply for PMRF only within 12 months of joining the PhD course. So for them, that is a lateral entry since they have already completed 12 credits. So that CGPA, I mean not 12 credits, 12 months. So that their CGPA in coursework has to be necessarily more than 8.5. But for direct BTech, you have another 1 year to apply. So that is PMRF for lateral entry for direct BTech. Again, your CGPA in coursework has to be more than 8.5. Now, in addition to this coursework requirements, it would be very good to have publications in reputed journals or international conferences or national conferences for that, and also a very good academic record. And you need to have very strong records, that is, I mean, recommendations. So which was why I was mentioning somewhere in my very earlier slide that it's good to be in the good books of professors, because as you grow, you realize that your connections keep building. So you will have to have a recommendation from your old college. So from NIT, you might have a professor who you did your who you made your BTech thesis under. So a reco from him and a reco from your current research supervisor, plus some publications if you can do that, would be amazing. So these first 2 years would be spent in this coursework, followed by which you will have to sit for the comprehensive exam. Now, the rule of the comprehensive exam is if and only if you clear the comprehensive exam, then only you are promoted to a senior research fellow, or you basically are allowed to continue working in that institute, or else the institute will simply bid you off with a master's degree and say that's it, you are not eligible for a PhD. So definitely every PhD candidate wants to clear the comprehensive exam. And followed by this, in comprehensive exam, you basically have to submit a research proposal, and also stating all your work, whatever literature review and whatever you have done. And in the comprehensive exam, the thing is that why it's one of the most important, and I feel rather I would say the most important and the most difficult milestone for a PhD candidate is because in a comprehensive exam, the work is entirely yours. The research proposal is submitted by you. Even though your research supervisor is backing it, he or she is not going to be the one who is going to defend it. So you have to defend your work in front of the external examiners, and again in front of the internal examiners also, which might include your head of the department plus some other examiner. So that is why comprehensive exam clearance is extremely important. In abroad, they call it prelims. So this exam, I would say, is the most important exam for a PhD candidate in IISc. After the end of fifth year or after the end of fourth year, depending on the potential of the candidate, he or she sits for colloquium. So in colloquium, they basically give a presentation of their entire work, whatever they have done, and they're almost on the verge of submitting their thesis. But now it's done only in front of the students internally. It's like a seminar which is conducted, and in your final year again, you do your oral defense, followed by which you submit your thesis. So in oral defense, it's not that difficult, I would say, because it's like now if questions are being asked to you, it's like questioning your research supervisor. So colloquium and oral defense generally go very smooth. So the first 2 years is all that you have to struggle with, from my personal experience, I would say. But other than that, if you continue working diligently, it's not like in a PhD, you have to become this monotonous person who has to sit cooped inside a room and continuously keep on working. No, you can have a social life also. In fact, you must have, which is something which will keep you sane. You will have to have good connections with your lab mates, and also with your research supervisor. You should be continuously in touch. A lot of times, a huge mistake what PhD students make is they shy away from meeting their RS. They will say that, I haven't done any work. So if you constantly keep meeting whoever your research supervisor is, you will also get a lot of ideas. And also you have to keep working for that. Definitely meeting up without any work being done doesn't make any sense. That, and yeah, that is all that I have to say. Thank you for lending me your ears. Any questions?
Yes, Didi, I have one question from your L&T journey. Like
Yeah, sure.
how your promotion happened, on the basis of your performance or over time?
Okay. Actually, see, promotion is not like okay, I did not get promoted. I got absorbed permanently as a senior civil engineer. Okay. So basically, the entire 1 year you will spend as a graduate engineer trainee, So yeah, you will have to be very diligent when the HR asks you to submit your monthly reports. So there is this certain thing called JRD, that is a job rotation diary. You basically have to write down. It's like making small notes of whatever you are learning. And then I said no, that you will have to present your work in the midterm review and in the annual review. So in that case also, once they find you pretty okay to give a thumbs up, then automatically you will be absorbed. And that promotion actually depends on the performance appraisal. Okay, so for that, like a lot of times, in fact, my colleagues, they used to say that we have to maintain an 8 rating or a 7 rating. So performance appraisal is another thing. For that, what is done is basically before the onset of the work, there is this thing called goal setting. So your project manager will sit with you, and he or she will make some goals for you, that these are the things that you are supposed to complete for the entire year. So accordingly, like depends on your performance, the kind of performance that you show to the site. So depending on that, you finally get the rating, and on the basis of that, you basically get promoted.
Okay, thank you, Didi.
Yeah.
Now, I have one more question. Like, since you have worked at L&T and now you are doing PhD, so you have seen L&T work culture and you have also seen so many others company work culture, or you may have heard about those companies also.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes, right, right.
now, what do you think? Means for a person means who is just about to graduate or will be graduated in will be graduating in 1 year. Which company he or she should be going for? Like means it's not like means he or she is getting all the companies, but he or she should be aspiring more for which company? Your suggestion.
Okay, see, I have seen a lot of people do this, like they did their undergraduate in civil engineering, but they chose some IT company. Okay, so coming from like switching from a code to a non-code thing currently, what I'm working on, for example, it's like I'm working into something which is not completely related to civil engineering. I'm working in optimization, but I have nothing to complain about because I've already worked in a core engineering company. So it completely depends on you, on uh, what you see. I was very determined that since I am a civil engineer, I will work in a civil engineering company only. So for me, I wanted to join L&T Construction because L&T is a very, very, very huge. In fact, it's a big name in the field of for mechanical engineers also and for civil engineers also. So I
Right.
wanted to join L&T Construction for that. And well, I have no regrets because now currently I have no regrets because uh, in PhD, I see a lot of my batchmates constantly cribbing and whining about, the kind of work they are assigned or the number of hours they have to spend in their lab. But L&T basically makes, matlab, for me, it made me very tough. Okay, so now I don't really find work to be that strenuous or hard. So I'm kind of grateful that I joined a core engineering company for that. So it completely depends on your choice whether you want to give in, spare each and every ounce of your energy, or whether you want to live life comfortably and join some other company which is not into core.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Now, since you have answered that question in a different way, like means I have one other question that would be I think my last question. Like
Okay.
you said that you means all BTech people should be doing some means they should be doing 1 or 2 years work experience in other company.
I did not say must or should do. I mean, it is completely according to my surmise. If you do, you don't have anything to complain. For example, a lot of my friends, what they did was they did their BTech, followed by which they spent 2 years in masters, followed by which they're doing their PhD. So they're continuously in that, learning, I mean, studying trajectory. So for them, the grass is greener on the other side. They will say that, yes, at least you have worked in some company, you have earned a salary, life has been very smooth for you. So that is why I said that, you have to have a taste. Like, you can, if you want to, if you have a taste of each and everything, then you won't have really anything to complain about later, that I could have worked, but I did not. I spent time in higher studies. So, and also, yeah, I said that because once you work in a company, you basically get exposed to the kind of culture which you don't get exposed to while you are in an educational institution. In an educational institution, you are in a very protective environment. No one holds you accountable for anything. You don't have to shoulder responsibilities. But once you join a company, I mean, for me, what happened was, once I joined that, I realized that life was very different. I was emphasizing on that phrase called people management. So that is something also you learn in your BTech. You have some fight with your friend, you stop talking to them. Okay, in your corporate company, you can't do that. It might be that you have a fight with your boss, but you still have to work under him, or you have to work with some of your colleague. Like maybe you might get negative vibes from him or her, but you still have to work with them. So that kind of thing, that kind of managing people, working under that atmosphere is something which you learn a lot once you work somewhere. So that was what I wanted to say.
Yes, and what do you think on what aspects one person who is just joining job after BTech may
Mm-hmm.
miss as
There are
compared
other
to another
people
person?
who have raised their hands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Duty Mitra was the one who had
Yes,
raised a
yes.
hand. Yeah,
Hello,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
Please. Yeah. Hi, hi, hi.
So So I wanted to ask about like for your PhD admission, did you have to give GATE or was it like direct
No, no, no.
admission?
It was direct. No, it was not. Okay, it was a direct admission. So my CGPA was 8.97. So it was more than 8.5. Back in my time, the criteria was more than 8.5. Since I was a direct NIT graduate, so I could directly apply for interview.
So
So
now the
no
criteria
competitive.
is above 8.
Now it's above 8. Yes.
And so another question I wanted to ask, like during, like you said that they asked you questions during your interview from your topic of interest.
Yes.
So
Yes.
did they ask you about your like work experience, like
Yeah,
uh,
definitely. Definitely. Yes, yes. See, okay, it is kind of difficult to say whether they wanted me to take in or not because I remember my current research supervisor, who was a Deedan interviewer, he asked me thrice whether I was ready to leave L&T, because, like when you join, when you're working, it's a constant salary. They know that you will get promoted, your money keeps getting multiplied. But once you are joining PhD, it's like your life is kind of stagnant. So on one hand, he was kind of impressed with the experience that I had in L&D. On the other hand, he was kind of skeptical also. But yeah, work X actually matters a lot. Like if you are a fresher, it
so
kind of
your
kills a lot of
research
points.
interest, so you were like you said, like you are doing on an interdisciplinary area, so
Yes,
like in the intersection of management and civil engineering. So
yes.
your job experience like added up for your application there.
Not directly, but indirectly, I would say. Yes.
So if a person works in like say non-core industry, then it would become difficult for them.
See, again, not really. Depending on the non-core industry, see, the thing is, you can always, frame your answers and align your uh, experience or interests with the kind of things that they want in a person. For example, mm, if you are really that much interested, firstly, like there would have to be some component which is there in your non-core job for you to have an interest in that particular line. For example, I was saying now that I was making schedules, so that is related to CPM, so that is how I got exposed. So see, I basically framed my answer one by one. It wasn't like CPM came overnight to my head and I said that I would do my PhD in operations management. So you can always frame your answers and align your interests in that line, and then like direct the path it follows.
So for like, could you share some tips for like cracking the interview? Like, was it like, did you have a lot of research experience in your
No, 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 no,
UG tech?
no, no,
Like,
no, no, no,
say
no, no.
research paper or something? Okay, Didi, just
Absolutely
share your
not. No,
tips.
absolutely not. In fact, I have currently now two conference papers, which is during my PhD. During my BTech, I had no such experience, which is why, I would say I had actually applied to Industrial Engineering Management Department of IIT Kanpur. Okay, so there one of the professors, seeing my academic record, was very much willing to take me. But then again, the other panelists, they were like that she doesn't have any publications. So no, we are scared. What if she's not eligible for that? So it actually depends on the mindset of your panelists also. So this time what I did, last time the mistake that I had made was I did not really try to like direct the interview in the line of the kind of questions that I wanted to be asked. So it kind of switched to research, publications and stuff like that. In management studies when I came, so I pretty much knew that what had happened when I had sat for that IIT Kanpur ka PhD interview. So then I started talking about my work experience and how I got interested into this operations management thing. And then accordingly, the questions followed. So yeah, so that is also an art. You will have to know how to direct the questions. They won't be really grilling you a lot. They will be asking you very basic questions. But whatever area you mention or whatever subject you mention precisely, you have to have a very strong grasp of that.
And like you said that they had grilled you on PERT CPM for 40 minutes.
Yes.
So for
Yes.
that you had done a lot of in-depth studies.
Yes, yes, yes. You have to do a lot of in-depth study for that. Yeah.
Okay,
And
Didi.
if you do not know the answer to any question, just say, no, I do not know. Do not fumble or do not give wrong answers, because that kind of brings negative points.
Okay, Didi, thank you so much.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Tuhina,
Hello, Di.
Ma'am,
Good evening.
good evening, good evening.
Hello, the like L&T is mostly famous for civil construction, but
Yes.
they hire mechanical engineers.
Yes.
So, what are the job opportunities in L&T for mechanical?
For mechanical, again, okay, so for some of my friends, what they did was they were working in the same IC only, that is the buildings and factories IC. Now, there is this very small component which is known as MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. During the entire construction schedule, they will say that mechanical engineers have to be extremely focused on this. For example, like installing those HVAC systems, and then they had these smoke detector things and all. So the mechanical engineers will also have to go through the same kind of training that us as civil engineers do, and then they will ask mechanical engineers, like they actually did that to one of my friends in front of me. They were like that, since you are from a mechanical engineering background, you will have to bridge the gap between mechanical and civil, so you will have to know whatever she knows, and similarly she has to know whatever you know. So the kind of trajectory for mechanical and civil engineers is almost the same, from a GET followed by whatever they want to go to. So for a
Okay.
mechanical engineer, you can later on become an MEP expert. So they will mostly assign you to that as years grow by, obviously. Not in your initial years. In your initial years, they will treat you like every other graduate engineer trainee or every other senior mechanical engineer, or the kind of post that they give. So you'll basically have to oversee the construction only, but later on, you can become an MEP expert.
Okay, Di. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're welcome.
Ma'am, we have one more question. Avinanshu Dash is asking, can
Mhm.
students doing PhD from engineering background in IISc be hired by foreign companies?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But it actually again depends, Like I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn also happening. So someone on LinkedIn I recently saw, they got into this Taiwan semiconductor company. So he's actually in a fourth year PhD from an engineering department only. So yes, it depends on the kind of profile you are interested in and the kind of research work that you carry out.
Does anyone has any more questions?
Hello, Di.
Yeah.
Good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening. Good
Di, yeah,
evening.
I want to ask that can cross branch, can any student apply for cross branch? Yeah, I want to say that yeah, if any student have the branch metallurgy, then and can he apply for mechanical or aerospace in IISc through Gate Aerospace or Mechanical?
Through Gate
Can he get
Aeros,
this? Yes,
I am not really sure. I think yes. I mean, for your masters, you're saying?
yes. The MTech type degree or the MTech plus PhD, which is he offered
For
in
a PhD,
IISc.
see, for a PhD, I, for example, switched from civil engineering to management studies. For us,
Okay.
it's possible. For aerospace, yes, yes. From aerospace, one of my seniors, he was in civil engineering from our NIT Durgapur only. He's currently doing his MTech in aerospace. So I think
Okay.
yes, you can via your gate score. Once again,
The my
please go
branch is
through the ISC
metallurgy.
website. Okay.
Can okay,
Yeah,
dear.
that is why I'm saying please go through the ISC website. Okay.
I found the and I found that that the metallurgy and material science student can and apply for the PhD program of aerospace. But
Uh,
and the other is
for the for masters, yeah, that is for PhD programs. I mean, it's pretty easy to apply. I mean, I did the same for myself too. I can say the same.
okay,
But for masters, I am not really sure.
okay, dear.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Any more questions?
If anyone has any more questions, can ask. Ma'am. So, ma'am, I don't think that
Yeah.
Anyone has any more questions here? Ma'am, it was indeed a very educational and learning session for all of us. And on behalf of Saisal, we would like to present you a small certificate for.
Thank you.
Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Ma'am, please accept this on behalf of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Again, thanks Dee for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. Thanks to you all. I will then just disconnect.
Yes, ma'am, you can disconnect.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. What
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.